Hey guys, Rix here. Today I'm coming back at you with another rendition of what I guess is going to be the Battle of Gettysburg. I think that that's the mock that I've kind of settled on for my Civil War era. I think that's, the direction I'm going to go in. So I'm excited to finally have, a concrete direction because now I can really get into building the mock, kind of planning it out, and just adding all of the stuff to it that I know I need, right? So, as you guys know, the Battle of Gettysburg was probably one of the most pivotal battles in the Civil War, or the pivotal battle. It was the furthest the Confederacy got in the Union, and it was where the Union held its own and pushed back secessionists. And this is really where the start of the war, or where the start of the tide turning really began. Following this, the South could never really regain kind of its morale and its mojo almost, especially after General Lee was defeated. So this was a very important battle. And honestly, I'm actually a little bit surprised that the Civil War era in general isn't very built in the LEGO community. I think that there's a lot of opportunity to create some really awesome looking scenes. I know that in the mock community, you see a lot of kind of Napoleonic War, and then you also see a lot of American Revolution stuff, but you don't really see any American Civil War stuff. Now, this might be partially due to the fact that not a lot of companies offer American Civil War figures, but I do know for a fact that this will change, hopefully very soon, from some great companies. So I'm very excited for that. I plan on hopefully getting about 300 to 350 total Union troops by the end, of this mock series. Hopefully I'll have that many. Right now I have, if I'm including purist Lego, I have about 70. So obviously that's not enough. But, my first goal is 100 because that would make a company. And then my second goal is about 300 to 350 because by the end of the war and even by the Battle of Gettysburg, which was midway through the war in terms of time, the regiments were highly depleted in terms of manpower. If you know anything about Civil War history, generally when these regiments were created, they had, give or take, about 1,000 men in them. However, through attrition, through casualties, through desertions, and just through people's contracts ending, these units quickly shrank in size and oftentimes became around, as I was saying, 300 to 350 men, which of course is only 35% about of what their full strength normally is. So anyways, that's a future goal. I obviously don't have 350 Union troops right now, let alone 100. So I have some guys on the battlefield right now that I'm kind of testing out positioning, so why don't we check out that? So what you can see right now are kind of some interesting little positions that I've thrown some guys into. If you look here, what I'm using, if I take them off, you can see this new piece. I don't know what you call it. It's almost, I forget what it's from. I think it's from one of the calendars, but it's a great piece for posing minifigures. As you can see, I can make him look like essentially an artillery shell exploded and he's getting flung away, which I think is a really cool posing. And then also all of these guys charging up, I think looks great. Something that you may notice is that I've essentially used all of the purist Lego guys as the casualties, which I think is really a good use for them because they don't have the best printing. They are technically cavalry, so I don't want, them kind of being in my main line of troops. And so having them be casualties allows me to have a more full scene without essentially wasting some of my custom printed troops. I do think one of the best purist figures Lego has ever made is this figure right here, which is Captain Fuller from the Lone Ranger line, if you know what that is. Obviously, he doesn't come with the Brick Arms Overbold, but he does come with some nice rank and the sash. So what's surprising to me is that a lot of companies have made default kind of run-of-the-mill Union soldiers, but nobody has really gone out of their way to make Union officers, which is pretty integral to any battlefield setup because there would never be just a lineup of Union soldiers where there wasn't an officer, right? Officers were actually incredibly important in the Civil War. They kept everybody organized. They kept everybody disciplined, and they kept everybody in line, especially when they were under fire. They served as a very inspirational group. One thing else that is very important that I'm missing is some colors, or as you guys might know, flags. So I need some regimental colors for this, kind of this setup right here, because otherwise, no Union or Confederate, just in general, no Civil War battlefield is complete without regimental flags, because those were just so iconic from the Civil War that I will need to figure out what I want to do for cloth. I think that Cape Cantina has some, but I think they're battle-hardened, essentially, versions of the flags, so I don't know if I want to do that, but that could be a possibility. I don't know if I mentioned it in my previous episode, but this is the tree that I had been working on. I don't really know how I like it. It's really simple. You can see it lies on top of this, just kind of floats there. I think it looks all right. I think it would look a lot better if there was more vegetation on the field in general, but that is how it is right now. Something else you might notice is that in comparison to my Vietnam War mock, I actually am using way more tiling on the ground. I'm essentially using no studs. And this was a new kind of style of building, essentially, that I was trying to try. I've seen a few people on Instagram who are building Napoleonic builds use a lot more of this tiling because it looks a lot more like mud, and essentially only using the studs to try and connect, or putting the studs where you want your soldiers to connect. So that is kind of an option that I'm going with right now. We shall see how it works out. But other than that, this is still a very early stages of the mock. I'm back to using this gray base plate because I think that hopefully I won't have that issue I had before where they were curling up, because I got some new ones. This is a fresh gray base plate that I ordered recently, so hopefully I won't have any of those issues. Other than that, I don't think there's really anything else to cover. Feel free to ask me any questions or suggest anything in terms of the direction of this mock, or a specific portion of the Gettysburg battlefield that you think would be most interesting for me to cover. I'd very much welcome those suggestions if you have any. But other than that, I don't think there's really anything else for me to cover. As always, guys, like, comment, subscribe, do all the normal stuff, and I'll catch you next time.